Hey, friends, welcome to the Rewind. This is going to be a fantastic episode. This is episode 12 of the Rewind, and we are going into the depths of the lesson sermon from Christ Universal Temple on Sunday, April 13th, I think it was. And so we're going to have a really amazing experience today. Reverend Gaylon McDowell is in the hot seat today. He gave the lesson sermon on Sunday, on Palm Sunday. And I mean, it was such a powerful lesson in the revolutionary radical side of Jesus's ministry and how we can apply it to today. So we're going to delve into the sermon titled Praise, Prayer, and Power, and discover the metaphysical meanings in the events leading up to the crucifixion. So this is going to be really, really amazing for us to kind of look at how we can take a historical event, this biblical event, right, as written in scripture, and look at it even more deeply so that we can apply it to our lives for our own soul's transformation. I'm excited about diving into that. And so before I bring Rev into the hot seat, I just want to invite you, if you're watching from wherever you're watching, to go ahead and share. Let people know that we're live and that there is getting ready to be an amazing soul transformation experience coming in here. I got the hardcore metaphysician here. And so we want to come in and go get the people. I see Doc going to get the people in here. It's more fun when we're all live here together. So I'm going to give it just a second more to share. So if you are watching with us, you can watch us on YouTube at CU Temple, or you can watch us on Facebook at CU Temple. And so I'm excited about what we have in store today. And it's going to be a very powerful conversation. Now, as usual, I really strongly feel like maybe I got a lot of clips, is what I'm trying to say. I got a lot of clips. And so we're going to get through as much of it as we can. But if you did not see the lesson sermon, if you didn't catch the lesson, I want to invite you that after we have our experience together, and here's the thing, you're going to want to go watch it again anyway. Go back and check out the lesson. I mean, the music was powerful and the lesson was just masterful. And so we're going to dive in here. I'm going to bring Reverend Gaylon McDowell into the hot seat for today. Let's go.
Hey there, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm on another level right now. It's been a full day, and it's a good thing going on right now. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm rocking and rolling here today. I'm excited I'm excited and a little intimidated. I'll just put my feelings out there for everyone, because this is what I'm praying for is discernment, because there's so much to unpack in this lesson, and I want to make sure that that we flow well, and also that we make it. There's somebody out there who doesn't quite understand metaphysics, and I think that they're going to be able to hear a story they may have heard over and over again in a whole brand new, fresh way. And so I'm just praying that we're able to deliver an experience for them. That's what I'm holding in prayer.
All right, let's get to it.
Let's get to it. All right. So so you gave a really wonderful lesson going through walking through the last week of Jesus, the events that led up to the crucifixion, and kind of helping us to understand it, not just from a historical perspective, but also like, what does this have to do with me? Right. Mm-hmm. I like to know what it's got to do with me. And so in the very first opening, you started to just give us an understanding of how can we look at the Jesus story a little differently, and you worked with that this soul's journey is about the Christ consciousness, right? So I want to just I'm going to play this clip, and then we're going to dive into understanding the Christ consciousness and how we can walk with Jesus through this experience and grow.
All right,
let's go. We're going to do clip number 1.
Jesus symbolizes the expression of the I am, or Christ's idea in every person. The Christ is God individualized in every person. The Christ is God's idea of itself. Jesus is the perfect understanding use of the Christ idea. Jesus, the man of history in the 1st century AD, symbolizes the soul's growth into Christ's mastery. If you want to learn how the Christ presence works in you with all the aspects of your being, your ideas, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, your perceptions, your ideologies, your habits, your successes, your failures, and your highs and your lows, study how Jesus interacted with others, what he taught, and where he went. All of these aspects of his life have significant meaning.
Okay, so this I think sets the stage for the interpretation that you're going to give on the lesson. So can you unpack a little bit more about how Jesus's life models our own spiritual growth and what we have to all experience?
Well, obviously, this is a metaphysical approach based upon the New Thought or New Thought Christian tradition. And it's important for us to recognize that. We're saying that every individual in the Bible, every person, place, or thing symbolizes or represents some aspect of our being, spirit, soul, body. So when we look at Jesus, we look at Jesus as not only a historical figure who so wonderfully and masterfully expressed his divinity, but we also look at him metaphysically as a symbol of our own divinity and how to express that divinity in our everyday lives. See, that's the key. So when we look at Jesus interacting with his disciples or the Pharisees or Sadducees or scribes or people he's healing, etc., all of these things symbolize aspects of this Christ idea in this Christ awareness interacting with the different aspects of our own consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So as we study Jesus then becomes an allegory of how we awaken and express what God has placed within us. That's probably the simplest way I can say it.
Yeah, I mean, so I've been studying New Thought. I'm not going to act like this is blowing my mind that we can look at Jesus's life allegorically, but as I've been just talking to people in this season, I'm realizing how married people are to just one way of looking at the Jesus story. And so what I really appreciated, and the reason I pulled that clip is because it's inviting us into another way of looking at it. Like, can we have a Easter story that's just not about that the crucifixion experience, but really looking at our own experience too? How can we learn if Jesus is our way shower, right? How can we learn from the master teacher in this way? So I got excited as I began to listen to it. I might have listened to this sermon maybe 3 or 4 times, which is not my typical thing, Rev, right? I don't typically listen to a sermon 3 or 4 times. I catch it once, maybe I'll get it again for the rewind. But I found a lot I found so much value in what you shared. So I want to dive a little bit more into this Christ idea. That you said that you emphasize that the Christ life means living in your own God-given power, right? A power that's not over other people, right? When we think about power, and especially in, I can't say especially now, always, there's always an experience where like somebody's trying to have power over me, right? And so this is a shift from having power over other people, believing that being the extension of power to the power that we have over ourselves.
Yes, self-mastery. And recognizing a lot of people don't feel as though they have power over themselves. That's why it's so many people that are frustrated with life, and depressed or angry because they don't feel as though they have even agency over their own being. So when someone comes along and says that God has placed its image and likeness in you as your true nature, your true spiritual nature is God individualized. Now, whether you call that the I am or the Christ idea or the Christ presence or spiritual man or all these different terms that people use, or spiritual being, we can set that aside. What we can say is there's something about each human being that is perfect, whole, and complete, whether we're in touch with it or not. And by studying Jesus and following the teachings of Jesus, this helps us understand how to express this divinity that is really our true nature. It's not just, I like to say it this way. I didn't make this up. This is from a friend of mine who I haven't talked to in many, many years, Reverend Michael Kelly. He used to come to CUT to speak a lot. He used to say that God isn't in you like the raisin is in the raisin bread. All right. Okay. I adapted it to say God is in you like water is like wet is in water. Like you can't separate wet and water.
Mm-hmm.
We have this sense of separation that the wholeness of God is something that has to be put upon us. And we promote Jesus and demote ourselves. And I'm saying that you don't have to demote yourself to promote Jesus. Yes, Jesus is divine. Yes, Jesus is all the stuff that the Bible says he is. And you are a divine being created in the image and likeness of God. And as you discover who you are, as you awaken to who you are, and you learn how to express what is already within you, you, like Jesus, can start to demonstrate Christ's mastery. If not, why would he say, these works I do, you can do, and even greater works? We don't even believe we can do the works, let alone the greater works.
Greater works, right?
It's outside our realm of possibility. And anything that's outside of our realm of possibility means that we won't even think or attempt to do it. Like, what does that even mean? And we try to, apologetics, or he just meant, whatever the apologetic scholar says, to try to get us away from the responsibility of walking with Jesus, as we say in UFBL, a closer walk with Jesus. A closer walk into what, though? Into Christ's mastery, into Christ's consciousness, into being a fully awakened spiritual being.
That's wonderful. Thank you all I see you all adding into the chat. We appreciate you being here live, Regina and Judith and Deborah and Dot, of course, who was calling all the people to the yard. We appreciate you for being here. As we open ourselves up to a new way of thinking about the story of the events leading up to Jesus, I'm going to jump right into one of the stories that you laid out. Again, I want to urge you all to listen to this lesson, especially this week. Like, make a point to listen to it this week, because there's an energy right now that's it's like about Holy Week, but it's not about Holy Week. You know what I mean? So, all right, I'm going to play this clip as Rev kind of works with the story of Jesus and taxes. Okay. Yesterday was tax day. So I'm gonna play tax day here in the States. I'm gonna play that clip.
Physically, Jesus symbolizes.
That's not that one. Wrong clip.
You know that you are sincere and teach the way of God in accordance with truth, and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality. Tell us then, what you think? Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Jesus, aware of their malice, said, why are you putting me to the test, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the tax. And they brought to him a denarius. And then he said to them, whose head is this and whose title? They answered, Caesar. Context, the Roman Empire's face was always put in a coin, sort of like they do with the United Kingdom, where the king, his face now was on the coin, and before that it was Queen Elizabeth. That's how they did things in the Roman Empire. He said to them, give therefore to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God. When they heard this, they were amazed, and they left him and went away. Jesus was too smart for them to deceive him. The lesson for us is to handle our legal responsibilities, but always recognize that the kingdom of God transcends race, gender, nationality, religion, and age. Teacher.
So this clip for me, I think is what was really, really important. I thought was setting the scene, right? You did a powerful job. I don't know if you all can see parallels in what's the history recorded in scripture, and then kind of what's going on right here now. It's a lot of that's popping out in the scripture right now. But I think that the idea of what can be going on in your own soul. So talk to me about how you interpret Jesus's response about Caesar's coin, like kind of putting it in today's context a little bit.
Well, I think that, first of all, we have to understand how propaganda moves and how the power of imagery is used. It's not an accident that they put, for instance, the United Kingdom, whoever's the current monarch's face on their money. It's the power of imagery. So it was no different back then. I mean, the more things change, the more they stay the same. So by using the power of imagery, they were impressing upon these people what level you're supposed to function on. And Jesus was saying, okay, now you can take care of your legal responsibilities. Okay. I'm not telling you not to do the things that you need to do as a part of this empire, whether you want to be a part of it or not. But I am also saying to you, are you walking your journey with God in integrity? Are you still maintaining your own agency, your own power, your own integrity, your own mental paradigm, that your wholeness is in God, that your source is God, that your leader is God, that you follow God? And when the challenge comes into play in where we have to bump heads against that, then we need to, like the civil rights movement, the Martin Luther Kings and others who are part of that civil disobedience era, had to say, hey, maybe we need to reevaluate this because this isn't showing up as love. It's not showing up as compassion. It's not showing up as justice. It's not showing up as these other things. So what we learned in the African American civil rights movement in the 50s and 60s was them challenging the status quo. Now, in Jesus' days, challenging the status quo meant you probably was going to get killed. So even the fact that he even said something was a reminder to people to be able to say, are you willing to stand on what you believe?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's easy to sell out. That's one. Two, it's also easy to be able to say on the spiritual end, oh, well, I'm spiritual, so I don't have to work and I don't have to do this and I don't have to handle my business. I don't have to be responsible. All I have to do is pray. No, because that's going to mean that you're leaving those responsibilities for someone else to handle. So,
right.
so if you know, this came up, so let me just say it. Emmett Fox wrote many years ago that if you're spiritual enough to where all your business can be handled just because of your consciousness without work and effort, then do that. If not, don't put that responsibility on somebody else. So yes, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but also render unto God what is God's. Walk your spiritual journey with authenticity, with integrity, with morality, with ethics, and most importantly, with the awareness of your oneness with God. Therefore, who is the person that's handling the business with Caesar? Who's handling the responsibilities? Because that makes a difference too. Jesus, you know, when we know when Jesus and Peter was in the situation where they needed to get past someplace, they had to pay the tax. Peter, go to the lake, fish. The fish will have a gold coin in his mouth. Now, we can believe it had a real gold coin in his mouth, or we can believe Aramaic Bible scholars like George Lamza and Rocco Errico who will say the fish was so big that I was like saying this fish had a gold coin in his mouth. You sell the fish, now you got money to pay the taxes. However, which way is the truth? He dealt with the need in the moment in a way that can handle the need.
Right.
So I'm not going to tell you, oh, you coming to speak at CUT? Go downtown to whatever store and just go in there with a card of affirmations, and they're going to give you the dress and shoes and jewelry that you want. That's irresponsible. When you go to the store, that's dealing with Caesar, and you got to pay Caesar. You know, I don't care how much good work we do here. We still got to pay people's gas. They want their money for the heat. We still have to pay ComEd. They want their money for the electricity. and so on and so on. This internet we're using right now, the company wants the money so I can live stream from Chicago while you're in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Still taking care of Caesar as well. But who's the person that's taking care of Caesar's business? That's what I'm trying to. It's the delicate balance. Well, all I'm saying is, don't forget who you are. Don't forget who you are while you're handling whatever it is that you need to handle in your human life. Don't forget who you are. Your spiritual nature, your spiritual awareness should be touching all aspects of who you are, and it should be reflective.
Yeah, I've been going live on TikTok every day, so I can't tell what I said where anymore because I've been talking all day, every day. It feels like, and but this idea that I've shared this idea on one of the lives about holding the truth, right? So the truth is who you are spiritually, right? And Caesar, in the way that I was explaining, it would have been the facts, that we're managing the facts of our lives, but we're managing it, as Rev said, from the spiritual consciousness, from the understanding of who you are. And I love that the story of Jesus and Peter, and how okay, so go get the fish because, and the fish is worth a currency. But if we look at it even a little deeper, that fish representing ideas is that there's an idea that will satisfy any need. Because God is the giver of ideas. And so sometimes when I listen to that, when I have read that scripture, I'll pull away with, I'm praying for the thing, but it's the idea that has the gold coin. It's the idea that has the fulfillment of the desire. And so I want to be mindful of that as opposed to waiting on the good to knock on my door. And like I'll just wait here and hang tight until God shows up, right? Yeah. And that mentality, again, like you said about Emmett Fox, if that's working for you, because I know some people who have had some God knocking on their door experiences, amen, hallelujah. That's not where my consciousness is. And so I have to go out and I have to be mindful. I have to be present to those ideas. But really, 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 that's just powerful stuff.
Thank you.
This next clip that I want to play, I think I'm going to go with just going a little bit into the Judas story, right? So because betrayal is a big part of this. So one of the things I did not include in our clips is just talking a little bit about what these characters, what these people in the Bible, these events represent. They are all in our own soul. Right. And so I didn't give you that from how Rev laid the lesson out, but I just want to, I think when we think about the Judas story, it's like we want to externalize that part, but not realizing that Judas is also represented in our soul. So I'm gonna play the clip and then we're gonna dive down into that. I think that's a really crucial part of the Jesus story. Of course it is the most dramatic part. I mean, short of the crucifixion. So this is, here we go. Let's do this one.
Someone once wrote, if you throw a rock at a pack of dogs, the only one that will bark is the one that got hit. His guilt was showing. When you are living the Christ life, people will disappoint you and sometimes betray you because they don't understand you.
I'm about to stop this clip because I want to set this up a little bit. I went more into the result, and let me stop this here. Let's chat a little bit about Judas. So can you set up Judas a little bit for those who may not be aware of how the story went down?
But basically, Judas, one of the 12 main apostles or disciples of Jesus, went to the chief priest, one of the chief priests, or the chief priest of the standard or regular Jewish structure of the temple, basically. In other words, he went to a religious leader and said, I know you all basically been trying to get Jesus. If I turn him over to you, what will I get for that? And of course, we know the story about the 30 pieces of silver, etc. And then Jesus was looking for ways to, Judas was looking for ways to betray Jesus. And Jesus said at the Last Supper, basically, one of you will betray me. And all of them were like, oh, not us. But Judas went extra, like, no, definitely not me, Jesus. And he was the one. And I was basically saying that there's a tendency for those who sometimes are a little extra being the one that you have to watch. That being said, the Judas betrayal is symbolic at several levels. One, at the level of, as you grow spiritually, there are going to be times where you're not going to have people around you understand how you move, why you think the way you think, why you talk the way you talk, why you move the way you move. Because from a consciousness level, they can't relate. Sometimes they want to relate. I don't believe that Judas wanted follow Jesus to betray him. It got to a point to where I believe, because he realized Jesus wasn't going to be the Messiah type he wanted. He cashed in. But I don't think that was his original intention. He didn't follow him. Sometimes that's why I said proximity doesn't necessarily mean that people will get you, that they will understand you. So I think he just cashed in, like, you know what? This doesn't make sense. He's not the one. I'm about the rebellion, and he's about, teaching people how to express their divinity and love people and etc. Now, from a metaphysical standpoint, Judas represents the life faculty out of this concept of all of Jesus's disciples symbolizing a spiritual faculty or idea. But the life idea is the idea that is very, if not the most closely related spiritual idea and mental faculty connected to the body consciousness, the appetites, the habits, the ways. And we tend to allow that which our mental and bodily habits desire to sometimes throw us off. And this is why I named some of the things in the sermon. It's not saying that any of the things were wrong, but when they get out of balance, or when they become irresponsible, or when we're only following feeling and we're not looking at outcomes, we're not looking at cause and effect, we're not looking at the impact that it has on us, then that's Judas betraying the Christ. Anytime we succumb to any temptation that pulls us away from the awareness of our oneness with God, that is Judas betraying Jesus. So from my perspective, Judas is betraying the Christ in each one of us every day, because every moment we're selling the Christ out for something we want. If we're honest with ourselves, all of us want different things. Some people want to be right. Some people want to manipulate. Some people want to live in their victim mindset. Some people want to cheat and steal and rob. Some people want to hurt other people. Some people want to harm themselves. Some people have things that they know they shouldn't be doing, yet they do them anyway, even though they know they shouldn't be doing them. Yeah. That is betraying the Christ in you. So what I was trying to do was bring it real close to home so people don't miss it. Yes, it was horrible what happened 2,000 years ago when Judas betrayed Jesus. But how are aspects of you betraying you now?
Right.
That's the question.
Yeah, and that's where our power resides, is in right now. Like, we can make some adjustments to the way that we're thinking and feeling about things. And I really appreciated kind of breaking down, just looking at Judas through this lens of my, what are my appetites? Because the body consciousness can be confusing, right? When you read that in our if you're a student of New Thought Christianity, you'll read these terms and it's like, what are they talking about, right? And the idea that you are tempted. And so when I think about these things, I always think about the ignorant version of us all, right? The part that just didn't know. I was listening to Trevor Noah's Born a Crime text. And so he's, Trevor Noah, if you're not familiar with him, was born in South Africa during apartheid, and he is of mixed race. And so he's born a crime, meaning that being mixed race, his mother was I can't pronounce the name of the tribe she's from, but she is South African, and his father was from a European country, but that they were together was a crime. Point I'm making is that he would talk about how at one point in his young adulthood, they were basically fencing stolen goods, right? Because there was somebody who was stealing out of people's suitcases, and they would bring things to them, and they would be able to make these exchanges. It was a way he made money for a while. And he said it never occurred to him because they were told that white people have insurance. So anything that they lose, insurance covers it. So they had no association to say that this is what I'm doing is wrong. This is how we get by. How else are we going to get by? And so this idea that you are that you have an act that you're not aware is wrong, the betrayal is still there. And it made me think how important it is for us to get in touch with our spiritual nature, to understand who we are spiritually, because you're still betraying your spiritual nature when you succumb to these temptations. Like, it's still happening. And so in this community, this Christ Universal Temple community, this greater New Thought community, the Universal Foundation for Better Living community, I know that there are people who listen to us around the movement, that we have to continue to share these teachings so that we can help people. You said a key word at the end, and I'm just going to give a commercial for it now, but you talked about awareness, right? This powerful, radical wake-up call to become aware. And I want to say just aware first of who you are spiritually, so you can show up and act like it. If you don't know who you are, how can you act like it, right? And we're on the hook for it.
Yeah, and I think that that's the real challenge that comes into play when we're dealing with the Judas mindset, where we're doing things that can be simple. You pray, God, how do I get healthier? And God, you get a divine download. Eat this, don't eat that. Exercise like this, stop doing less of that. And you do the opposite. Now, you prayed and you've gotten the instruction directly from Spirit, and you don't do it. That's Judas betraying the Christ. Okay. Stop dealing with this person, because this person is not for your highest good, but they make you feel good. Like Johnny Gill, they rub you the right way. So you still engage. That's Judas betraying the Christ. See, we often pray for stuff, but what we're really praying for is, God, change things around me so I don't have to change, and just make stuff the way I like. We don't want, often, I ain't gonna say universally, but often we don't want the transformation. We just don't want to feel bad.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't feel good when you are disciplining yourself to follow your indwelling Christ. It doesn't always feel good. People who will say this spirituality always feels good, you're lying to yourself. You are lying to yourself. It's not always rainbows and ice cream. Sometimes it's literally fighting against what you want that you know is not right. Like an addict who wants the high, but they know what goes along with the high.
Yeah. We're all walking some walk where we are working to resist temptation. And if we are looking at the walk of Jesus, right, in a way that can serve us right now, like we take Jesus out the past and say, how does that walk apply to me right now? So I know I need to fast and pray over some things. I know that when I'm deeply tempted, right, that I need to really I need to have some come apart time. So for Jesus, spent 40 days in the wilderness. I need a 40-day. I need a period where I'm really, really focused on overcoming this temptation. And anybody who has changed a habit, you've done it, right? This isn't something that I got to hurry up. I got to figure out how to do this. You've done it. You've changed bad habits before. Or I won't say you have bad habits. You've changed habits that weren't serving you, right? And then there are things we picked up, right? That process, we put a period of focus on something and we never made a shift from there. So this is why I really, really, really resonate with New Thought Christianity, is because I get something I can use, right? I want something that I can use that's not always just about morality, but just about the way that I think, like some of us use it. Some people are using the Bible just as a moral lesson, right? And so we're going to take this culture that we are so thousands of years apart from and apply the moral code from that culture to this day and time. And that is what woke me up, right? That's what woke me up to say there has to be something more. There has to be something more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This next clip I'm gonna play because I think we've dealt with Judas, and I appreciate your expounding on that. Is about Peter. Peter's my favorite because Peter represents faith, and I'm on a faith walk right now, so I've been really doing some Peter study. And so this idea you talked about, this is a very, very quick clip, but I just wanted to play it because you talked about Peter walking on the water and what happens after that. So I'll play it and then we'll unpack it some. And sometimes you just need to hear this one again. This is just a good one to remember.
Always pay attention to our faith, because our faith can look at the Christ, like when Jesus was walking on the water and Peter said, let me come out, and if it's really you, Jesus, bid me to come out there with you. And as long as he was looking at Jesus, he didn't sink. But the moment he started looking at the waves, he started to sink, because he took his eyes off the Christ and started looking at the crisis. It's a lesson for us. And
there's a lesson for us in that. He started to sink when he took his eyes off the Christ. So how can we keep our eye on the Christ when life is storming around us?
Well, first thing is it's really good if you study beforehand. When you're going through it, it's a little bit tougher to discipline yourself while you're going through the challenge. Is it impossible? No. It's easier when you've done some previous consciousness work, because it allows you to recalibrate. So what does recalibration look like? It's recognizing that your focus isn't on the appearance. Your focus is on the intention. So when your attention is on your intention, it's easier to demonstrate. The challenge comes into play is when our attention is not on our intention, it's on it's easy to say it's the facts, but a lot of times it's not the facts. It's our perception of the facts.
Right.
It's our belief about the facts that throw us off. All right. Because the fact is just a fact. And well, what do I believe about it? That's really what Peter looked at. I'm looking down at the water. I'm a human being. I'm not supposed to be walking on water. Now he's dealing with his belief instead of doing what Jesus instructed him to do. So when we look at that as a symbol of what's happening within us, when I'm going through the challenge of seeking to demonstrate or manifest something in my life, I need to be more intense with my prayer work, with my meditation work, with my denials, with my affirmation, with my study, with blocking out the conversations and anything that will be disruptive to the spiritual rhythm I'm trying to get into. I'm a big believer in rhythm, and maybe it's my martial art background, but everything has a rhythm to it. Certain styles move a certain kind of way. Techniques work a certain kind of way. Well, it's the same thing with your mind, because as within, so without, as without, so within. It's a rhythm to being in alignment with your spiritual nature. And it's, for lack of terms, because it's really hard to explain, you have a feeling of being in tune and in alignment. And there's a feeling when you're out of alignment. It's when you feel as though you have, it's like being on a bike. There's a level of comfort when you know how to ride a bike, that you know how to balance, you know how to adjust, even if the road is rocky. But you could be a new person who doesn't really know how to ride a bike on the smoothest street or road ever. And you not only will do whatever, you're potentially falling, because instead of maintaining your balance, you start looking at the wheels, you start looking at the ground. And because your attention and your head is going toward the ground, next thing you know, your body is falling off the bike and you're hitting the ground. Well, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How high can you keep your attention up? This is why the Bible says, lift up your eyes, or Jesus looked up to heaven. You have to start rising, keeping your mind at the highest level of spiritual vibration you can. And what that means in practical terms is you have to start ignoring the other stuff and pulling your mind back to what you're praying about, pulling your mind back to what you're visualizing, pulling your mind back to what you're contemplating, what you're meditating, what you're sitting with, the feeling that you're being with. So when you get that feeling, you're praying, you get that feeling of assurance, you got to stay there with it. All right. And that might mean, okay, I'm not answering the phone calls or the phone calls from these people or the text messages or whatever. Or if it's somebody that I need to talk to, as soon as I get them off the phone, I'm getting off. I'm not lingering. I'm not doing whatever. Sometimes it means shutting down completely. Like I'll shut down completely, where I'll tell people, hey, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever, I'm not answering the phone. I'm not answering text messages. It's me, whatever I'm reading, and my prayer time. I'm not trying to offend anybody. This is my time and my space that I need for myself. That's how you keep your eyes on the Christ, because if not, it's easy for conversations to pull you. For you pop on social media, you see something you don't like, pull you, news, pulls you, neighbors doing something, family, friends, children doing something, and it will pull your attention away from the idea that God gave you to demonstrate. So if you want to be in a space to where you keep your faith clean to be able to see, because faith is really the seeing, it was one of the seeing powers of the mind. Imagination is another. Faith has to be able to perceive the good. Therefore, the cleaner you keep it, your thinking, the cleaner your faith will work. The less you're compromised by being all in your feelings about something.
Right.
The clearer your faith can see the possibility. Because you can be so much in your feelings that it will work in the opposite. Instead of the thinking impressing the feeling starts to impress the thinking. That's the real true meaning without drilling down into it. This is the true meaning metaphysically of Eve getting Adam to eat the fruit that he shouldn't have eaten. Eve symbolizing the feeling. Why? Because temptation attacks at the feeling level, not at your logical, rational thinking level. It's a feeling. And when you get too caught up in your feelings about something to the point to where it's imbalanced, now your ability to think clearly and see the possibilities get muddled. And that's what happens with Peter often in the scriptures. That's why he can deny Jesus. I don't even know the guy. You know, it's easy to do that when you're in a situation where you should be projecting this is how we're moving. Let me give you a real practical example. Say, for instance, both of us, only a few years ago, we were in our teenage years. We're hanging out with a peer group of people, right? But we're spiritually grounded. We were raised a certain kind of way. Certain values were nurtured, developed, and nurtured within us. And we're out and about with spaces, and people in the space want to do things that you know is not in alignment with how you were raised and what feels good to you spiritually. Now the question comes into play is, are you going to act like you don't know Jesus now? Jesus symbolizing this sense of doing right, this sense of living out of your divinity. Are you going to do the things? Are you going to go out and go rob the person? Are you going to go steal the product? Are you going to whatever? I can remember, and I'm not going to put the person on blast, a young person that I took to some place when I was in my 20s, Disney something, whatever, when they were a child. And when we were picking them up, My ex-wife and I, when we went back to get them, I was like, "What's that in that bag?" And it was something like, I don't know if it was a code or something, whatever. And they just thought, "Oh, somebody left it, so we just took it." Turn around, drive back, give me that, put it back in there, and then left. Why? Because I can't co-sign that. And if I allow it as an adult, you to do that, even if you say, "I didn't take it from somebody just left it. It wasn't yours to take." That's how quickly we can do. Now, when it was all drilled down, the friend that this young person was with was like, "Oh, just take it. Ain't nobody, whatever." But that's not how you were raised.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, it's easy to lose track of your spiritual focus when the peer pressure is telling you to do something that you know is out of alignment with your soul.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's part of the Peter journey. What am I willing to do to get what I want? Also, so we can go on. We did a whole show about Peter, so let me just stop talking.
I know Peter is so much to faith and understanding, what it means to walk with faith, right? What it means to be in a faith mindset. What I think is really dope though, like just in terms of how, okay, I'm having my challenge. Peter's on the water, right? And you gave me some tips about the focus and the concentration. Dot affirm that I got to stay focused on what's true about me. And it does help if you are already practicing, right? It's just like if, you've been lifting muscles, you've been practicing your art, whatever it is, when it's time for the recital, it helps if you have been rehearsing. It helps if you have been practicing. So when a storm comes, if you've been practicing the presence of God, then you're going to have a different approach to the way that you look at the challenges in your life. But okay, fine. You didn't, right? I didn't work out. I didn't practice. I didn't get myself ready. That doesn't mean that right now you can't begin to make that, to have that focus. Same steps, same process he laid out, but now it's now, right? Yeah. And it made me be more difficult. I know that when I was having financial challenges and every thought really was about being broke, right? It was about the bills that I didn't have the money for, the things I couldn't do because I didn't have the money for. Like every thought was around that same idea. And so shifting from that was a one thought at a time, but I had to do it in the middle of not having any money, right? It wasn't like money came and then I was like, okay, now I'm going to affirm and speak the truth about prosperity. It was in the space where the facts, my experience, my belief were showing me what I thought about myself and money. And I'm going to dare to hold on to the truth so that I can start the transformation of those beliefs. So you can do that in the moment too. You don't have to have, I took a L because I wasn't prepared. That's not what Rev was saying at all. I want to make sure that is spotlighted and because it does help.
I do have an extra step though. Mm-hmm. This is why community helps.
Yes, that was where my plug was going. Same mind.
That's why community. If you're around a community of people, like-minded people, it helps you whether you've already done the prep before or you're new to this consciousness expanding message. Being around people of like-minded, one, you get to see it modeled. Yeah. Two, you get to be around energy that's supportive and constructive. And three, just, whether digitally or physically, you're contemplating higher ideas and ideals. And the contemplation of higher ideas and ideals, if you continue to do them, will pull you up on their own.
Yeah. I didn't realize that it's impossible for me to talk for an hour and not mention TikTok 5 times because it's an area of focus right now. But I'm learning about true connection on digital platforms. I think that I thought I knew, but I'm understanding now a little bit more as we're building the collective, as we're building the online ministry for Christ Universal Temple, that how do you build intimacy in a space where people can feel safe to grow, right? I'm getting some real life experience with that. You guys are going to see a transformation in the way that the collective functions as a result of it, because the community is important. I know that we think we're off on our own. And I know that if you've been in this belief tradition for a while, meaning New Thought Christianity, that you may be in a very much like self-helpy kind of experience, because you recognize the power of your thoughts. You recognize the the power of your words, and it's all about you. But like Rev said, that community that you create around you will help you. It's a loving mirror sometimes. Sometimes it's a loving corrector. Sometimes it's a loving testimony. Sometimes you're the one that is teaching and people are able to perceive it and grow from it. But that energy, that togetherness is so important. And I think that because people have stopped coming into physical church experiences, that some of that we've just kind of gotten a little distant from. So not you all, but maybe some of your friends. I want to encourage you to bring them back into fellowship, right? Whether they're tapping in. I saw you sharing out this experience. This is a fellowship experience too. You guys can interact. You can ask questions. Like, this is our experience. And so the same thing is that there's something powerful. It's going to be a powerful thing that happens on Sunday at Christ Universal Temple that you should be a part of. If you're able to be in the house, you should be in the house, right? If you're able to tap in digitally, like, come in at church time. Just do that. If you're watching and engaging with the ministry online at different times of the day, on Easter Sunday, tap into that space in real time if you can. Just experience that with everybody, so that you can feel closer to the community. Like, there's something about that really, really helps. And so I'm just that next layer, the praying, all that you stuff, come do some us stuff. Come do some collective work.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer, and I'll say this because I believe it without a shadow of a doubt. I would not be the man I am today if it wasn't for this community, not just the teaching. It's a lot of places you can go to get similar stuff, but this community helped me create the man that I am today.
Yeah.
And without this community, without the, walking in the door in January of 1993 up until now, if this community did not exist, then this version of Gaylon McDowell would not exist.
Yeah, that's powerful. It's a powerful testimony. I have very similar one. And I am, I'm forever grateful. But the other thing is that if I hadn't walked through those doors, but if there hadn't been people holding the space for me as well. And so sometimes you're a holder of the space. You may think, I don't feel like getting up and going to church today, but you're the holder of space. You've had some experience with this truth, and you're holding the space for that young Gaylon that walks in, who is feeling lost, right? Who's looking for himself in that congregation. You could be that person. So I didn't mean to turn this into a commercial for church, but it's really just an impactfully sharing with you about community and the power of community.
Let me just say it very directly. If you're in the Chicagoland area and you're physically able to be in the space on Easter in the church, we are personally inviting you to be in the building for that Sunday. If you can't, I understand it. But if you're physically able to be in the church on Sunday, show up and invite others as well.
I was just going to say that. Bring some friends, because the other, I'm going to be there on Easter Sunday. I'm excited. And we have some fun activities planned. Like, for the children are going to have their own fun Easter extravaganza. And I'm in LA too, Eugene. And there is also going to be some the kickoff of something that I think is going to be really special as we are gifting people. So just know that if you can, I'm just echoing what Reverend Gaylon said, is that to make your moves to be in there. It's Easter. It's okay. We're not judging. If this is the first time you've been in church in ages, nobody's judging you. Come. Right? Come and enjoy the experience. And then, come again, right? Come again, because it's going to be amazing. But we got enough parking for everybody. We got enough seats for everybody. Just come on into the church house and have a good time. And let's fellowship together. I'm going to play this. Oh gosh, there's so many good ones. Okay. I'm going to play this clip. How about this? Because I think maybe we'll wrap out on this one, because I think that it's really, we're talking about mindset shifts, and you made a really powerful emphasis on the Barabbas consciousness, right? So I want to play this clip, and then we'll talk a little bit more about that. I think that, yeah, I'm going to play the clip, and then I want you to, then we can unpack it from there. Because this was really, really important. And then just again to drive home, it's a short clip, but just to drive home kind of like the practical nature of this spirituality. Like, we're really about what's going on in your life right now, and how to deal with what's going on in our world from a spiritual perspective. All right, let's do this one.
Is at a critical point. Because way too many people, in my opinion, are choosing the world mindset, the Barabbas mindset, over the Jesus mindset. Too many people are choosing anger, division, and the mentality of biting their nose to spite their face when it comes to dealing with other people that they conceive aren't like them. When people rather suffer than share resources with people they don't like because of racism and sexism and classism or homophobia or religion. In my opinion, they have chosen Barabbas over Jesus.
Okay, so let's really go and dive into that a little bit. I think you meant what you were saying.
I meant what I was saying. And I would encourage people to listen to the whole sermon and get that point, because my whole sermon was to get there. It was to get there. And but you just don't go that direct. You have to build the world that you want to see. Yeah. And what I was trying to get across was, it's easy to proclaim that you're about the Jesus mindset. I was doing a contrast to Jesus mindset, which is based upon love and understanding and compassion and justice, versus this world mindset of Barabbas, based upon the hate and the separation and the, all the stuff that we don't want, the negative stuff. And when I see things that's happening in the world, whether it's if in the church, whether it's in the neighborhood, whether it's with our local government, state government, national government, the world, and we're proclaiming with our mouths the Jesus mindset, but our actions, or what we allow or what we permit to happen in the world, is more consistent with this Barabbas or world mindset based upon the hate and division and separation and manipulation and domination of other individuals, then I think it has to be called out. So what I did was I called out things I felt in our nation was inconsistent with the Jesus mindset, because the scripture says, your lips proclaim me, but your heart is far from me. And what I was just trying to do was help people understand that Jesus is being used more as a prop now. Not just Jesus, the mindset, but Jesus, the individual, is being used as a prop to promote their own ideology. They don't want to deal with the clear example and teachings of the man who said, what you've done for the least of these, you've done for me, and what you have not done for the least, you also not done for me, et cetera, et cetera. The teachings of love, the teachings of forgiveness, the teachings of helping your brother and sister, the teachings of walking with integrity, the teachings of doing what's right even when it's hard, showing up as this example of Christ-like behavior, even when you feel as though you're not benefiting from it, because it's the right thing to do. See, it's easy to proclaim it, but I called it out, and I will continue to call it out when I see things. For example, as I stated, when you close government facilities that are taking care of the most vulnerable members of our society,
without a thought,
but you can give billionaires tax cuts. That doesn't make sense to me. Okay, I'll give another example, one I didn't use in the sermon. You have people who actually argue about feeding children in school, feeding our children. Well, their parents should be, or whatever. So if you just one of the people who did not have the benefit of good parents, because that's a real thing in the world, that don't mean you get to eat.
Yeah. Or not even good parents. It's just a parent who doesn't have.
Or
right?
I said, or a parent that can't provide.
Yeah.
Or you're single, live with a single parent, or your grandmama, or your auntie, or foster care. It's so many variables. The fact that there are people who argue for us not to spend money on children. They don't want us to spend money on pre-K. They don't want to make sure that they have the best opportunities to get the best education that they want. Is antichrist to me. There's no other way for me to say that. When we start talking about making fun of people with disabilities, and we promote somebody to say that they're Christ-like, that's antichrist to me. When you start talking about giving people free reign to, I don't want to pull the church in a whole bunch of stuff because, I can go there. But, when I pop on the news and I see what's happening over in the Gaza Strip, is somebody going to tell me that's Christ-like? Well, it's the terrorists. Okay, so those 5 and 6 year old little kids are being bombed, their schools are being bombed, and elderly people being bombed in their homes and in their hospitals. They're the terrorists.
Yeah, Judith had put in. Go ahead.
It's perplexing to me.
Yeah,
it's perplexing to me that Christians can follow highly unlike Christ-like leaders who don't believe in love, who don't believe in compassion, who do not believe in justice, who don't even believe in basic honesty. When we have an unelected leader who says that the main problem with Western society is our empathy. That was said by the Tesla guy. The main problem is empathy. But you proclaim Jesus? Something is wrong with the way we think. If we think that's consistent with Jesus.
Right.
So they've created a Jesus that works for them. That's inconsistent with the real Jesus. More importantly, is inconsistent with the love, the compassion, the justice, the integrity, the honesty that God, that is universal. It shows up in all religions and culture. When we're trying to dominate and abuse people, and we make that okay, and we make it okay, and we justify it, as long as I get what I'm supposed to get, as long as it don't impact me, as long as it doesn't touch me, that makes it okay. No, it does not make it okay. And New Thought, as much as I love it, as I said to you before this podcast started, was created or born out of a sense of privilege of people who didn't have to argue for those things. And because they didn't have to argue for it, it wasn't in the teachings. Or when people say, just stick to principle and just teach universal law, what does this have to? We don't teach that type of stuff because the people who brought it to us didn't have to have those arguments.
Right.
So, all
it's our turn.
Yeah, all I'm saying is this. People like you and I who've dedicated our lives to this message, we have a right to critique it. And we have a right to critique it, what's in it. Because as a community, the moment we start making stuff okay, that's not okay, we've chosen Barabbas over Jesus.
There was a Judy had put in the chat, namaste. I feel like at the core of the divisiveness is this idea of that of separation between one another, that I don't behold the divinity in you, right? That I don't see you as divine. So because I don't have an us, that we're in this, that it's a we, we're all one, because I don't have that mindset, then I can kind of say, because I think that if you talk to some people who are championing the behavior of our government right now, what you may find of the US government, what you may find are people who believe that there's a them that don't deserve these civil liberties, that don't deserve the rights of being a citizen of this country, right? And so we can other them, and then and mind you, we have to be mindful of that too. We can't other the people who are who are caught up in this,
I call it tribalism.
MAGA nationalism,
I call it tribalism. It's, to me,
Yeah.
it's beyond nationalism. It's really tribalism.
Yeah.
It's my tribe versus yours. It starts off like this, Rev Sheree. If I believe that I'm on God's side and I don't agree with you, that means you're not on God's side. If I believe this is what God wants and you're not doing it, that means that God can judge you. That means I can judge you. If I believe I'm on God's side and I believe God is condemning you, then I can condemn you. See, it's subtle. And we create this separation of otherness through the tribalism of us versus them, versus the idea of oneness, which is at the root of what New Thought really is. So this is why I believe our message is so important. But that's also why I said, if you're going to be the person that protests, if you're going to be the person that speaks up, who's the person that's doing it? Because if you can't ask the world to be at peace when you're not at peace. You can't make peace with the people in your house. Talking about you want a peaceful world. You can't get along with the people at your job. Talking about you want a peaceful world.
Yeah.
You can't sit in the same room with the siblings you grew up in the same house with. Talking about you want harmony in the world. You don't want to talk about love and peace and etc. and get yourself together so you can be the avenue, so you can be the conduit, so you can be the channel through which God can work. So as you are, quote unquote, being a champion for what's right for humanity, you don't lose your humanity and your spirituality in the midst of championing something else. Because sometimes people lose themselves in what they're trying to produce in life.
Yeah.
And we got to be careful about that. So what I'm saying is work on you, get yourself together, handle what you need to handle, so then you can be the demonstration of what needs to be done as God is guiding you. In other words, Spirit, who do I need to be in this experience? What do I need to do in this experience? And before you start looking, what is Reverend Sheree doing? What did Jesus tell Peter post-resurrection? What is that to thee? Follow thou me. We get caught up saying what other people should be doing or not doing versus being very clear about who and what I am supposed to be as directed by the presence of God in me. If I can stay on that track, then I can be a transformational agent.
Yes. I had a friend talking about, kind of criticizing ministries for not being at the forefront of all this, like we quote unquote used to. And I said, well, when's the last time you went to church? And it was like, no, I don't go to church. I said, well, so if all the revolutionaries are sitting it out, like, why would you expect the church to be the space where these conversations are happening, where there are activities and programming behind it, if you've opted out? Like we're in this thing together. We are in this thing together, and you are needed for the harmony. Like, that's what I know to be true, that we are needed. What you have uniquely to contribute to this world, we need it for the harmony in the world. Like Rev said, to being a conduit of God's love, of God's power, of God's peace. If you don't bring it, it's not brought. If you don't bring it, it's not brought. So let's get to it. You talked about the awakening, and I think that's the awakening here. That's what we're talking about right now. Is this, as you wrapped it out, I thank you for this lesson. I think it was a great, it was, of course, very timely, but just kind of what we need this week as we're all in this collective. There's Christians around the world popping off firecrackers and all kind of things they're doing to celebrate the resurrection. But we must understand the journey of Jesus and understand these choices and how they can impact our own, how we can elevate ourselves so that we can rise above whatever it is that is in our experience that does not reflect our divine nature.
Yeah, well, all I can say is I'm all for pomp and circumstance. I understand how religious marketing works, but none of those things will change the inner person.
Mm-mm.
Not a one thing. So until you're ready to deal with the inner person, to change man or woman in the mirror, then nothing's really going to change, because you showing up and saying yes to what God has called you to do, regardless of age and race and education and this side of the track or this other side of the track, that's all the stuff we make up.
Right.
Just be obedient. Try obedience. Just try it.
Just try it.
Just try. That's all I'm saying.
That's a whole work, though. You know what I mean? Like obedience, discipline, all those things. Like, let me. Who was it, Rev, that said that it's easy to change, but it's staying changed? Was that Emmett Fox?
I don't remember. But it's definitely the absolute fact.
Yeah.
But it's because it's easy to do the surface work because you're not dealing with the deeply rooted subconscious beliefs that drive behavior. Not only do they drive behavior, they drive perception.
Yeah.
And because they drive perception, you're going to act the way you see life because that's your paradigm.
Yeah.
So what I was trying to do with this sermon was attack paradigms, like literally directly, and I know that's not what we always do because people love the inspirational new thought talks. I love them too. I'm not going to lie. Make me feel good, Rev. Preach that lesson. But when it comes to the conviction lessons, if it's coming through me, trust me, it's harder on me than it is on you. But part of our responsibility as ministers, and I actually just told this to Reverend Sheree and Reverend Charles a couple of days ago. I said that as I was preparing the lesson, I kept hearing Reverend Dr. Mary Tumpkin, the past deceased president of UFBL, the second one ever, say to me, and she said it to multiple people, wasn't just me, the role of the minister is to be both the priest and the prophet. The priest is, yes, let's do all the religious stuff. I do the sermons, I pastoral care stuff, pray with the people, etc. But the role of the prophet is to declare, thus said the Lord. The role of the prophet is to challenge the status quo. The role of the prophet is to call forth conviction. And if we only do the priest part and we don't do the other part, then, in my opinion, based upon what she said to me, we're not fulfilling the full role.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's necessary to, at times, be the person like John the Baptist. I'm a voice coming out of the wilderness saying, this ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. I want to acknowledge a few people in the chat who've been putting some powerful comments in here. Eugene said that I believe denominations aren't meant to divide us. I was raised Pentecostal. The Bible says, whoever has ears, hear. I hear you all loud and clear. Thank you for that, Eugene. Thanks for tuning in today, tuning in live. That's really wonderful. Judith said, we do need church leadership to remind us of Jesus's principles because it has been distorted. Yes, we must each do the work to stand up for peace and love daily. It all starts with me. I love it. Thank you for sharing that. Deborah said, and that is the truth. And that is the truth. I appreciate you all for what you are contributing, just energetically, what you're adding to the chat. These conversations are meant to support you spiritually. So I appreciate your feedback and I appreciate you, your engagement. Please join the collective because you can actually guide these conversations. You can share, hey, I really would like for you to ask this question, or I really want you to pull this clip. this was really moving for me. I have a question about that. That is what you're able to do. Join our collective. It's a private Facebook group. And so all that you have to do is you can follow that URL, search the CUT Collective Worldwide, and you will find your entry there. I accept those who come. We've had it can be a little quiet in there right now, but like I said, I'm having a transformation myself in terms of engagement. So you'll see more content, but this is our thing, right? So you're welcome to include dialogue in there. I'll drive the ministers to go and respond when necessary. But I appreciate you for your commitment to this community, for however you're showing up. And we're just recognizing that we got to lock in a little bit more. We got to lock in a little bit more.
I want to leave with a thought when you finish. One thing.
Okay, I want to do a couple of plugs before I go. So this Friday at the temple, there is there are ministers who are going. It's noon is the Good Friday service, right?
Noon to 1:30 Central
Noon
time.
to 1:30. So if you are in the Chicago area, I highly encourage that you make your way over there. If you have a break in the day and you can go, it's Good Friday. Take that time and experience some powerful worship, a powerful word. And then, of course, Sunday, return to the temple, and the Good Friday service will also be live streamed, so you can catch that on Facebook and on YouTube. And then also on Sunday to join in person if you are in the Chicago area. If you're able to come, please do, and give yourself some time so you can arrive and enjoy everything. There's going to be a photographer there for family photos. There's going to be a post event for children. So at the children have an amazing activity that they're going to participate in, and there's an after party at Visions that's all for them. And the children who come from Christ Universal Temple get a VIP ticket, so they don't have to stand in line. They can go right in and enjoy that Easter party that's happening at Visions, which is on the CUT campus. So I just want to just come and enjoy. And then we got some fun gifts to give you. So we're gonna make it fun, but you're gonna get a powerful message. You're gonna get powerful praise, and so tap in how you can. We appreciate you for that. Oh. Now your closing thought.
Okay, closing thought. I want you all to go find in the Bible. It's in 2 Samuel. I think it's chapter 12, but I'm not sure. It's a story about King David when he lost his way and took Bathsheba, which was Uriah's wife. Now, he had everything in the world, and he took this man's wife, got her pregnant, and then tried to bring the man back from the front lines. The man wouldn't leave his team, so he had the man killed and took the man to be his wife. Horrible actions. And the kingdom was just going to let it be until it was a prophet named Nathan. And Nathan had a function of, with all of the royalty and the elites are around, he tells a story about a man who had a small little home next to this man with this big home. And the man with the big home had all of these sheep. And the man with the little house had only one sheep. And the man who had everything went and took the little man's sheep for himself. And in the story tells how David was mad and like, who is this man? And this man needs to be punished. And this man is wrong. And he's wrong before God and all of this type of stuff. And the prophet Nathan said, "My Lord, you are that man." And then recited what he did to Uriah and what he did with Bathsheba. That voice is needed today.
Yeah.
That voice is needed today. Someone who has the courage to be able to say to whoever it needs to be said, this is out of alignment with the will of God. And I'll leave that there.
Powerful, powerful. So we got some homework to do. And I encourage you to read that. Like we really do just need to continue to focus our attention on our transformation. How can I be a part of the global transformation? Thank you all so much for coming in, for tuning in whenever you're listening. Thank you so much. Please share this out with others. And it's been real. It's been amazing. And I'll be back next week with another rewind. I do not know who's in the hot seat next week. Who's in the hot seat?
Reverend Wells, she's doing the Easter sermon.
Oh, of course. course, he's doing the Easter service. Okay, so we'll be back with Reverend Wells next week. But bless you all just richly. And we hope that you get an opportunity to worship with us on Sunday. You are personally invited. I'll be back. I got something else to share with you in a minute. Come to the rewind. There's a program that we can all be involved in no matter where you are in the world. And so I'll talk more about that next week. So be sure to tune in to the rewind. God bless you real good.
God bless.